Hey, what's up? I'm just gonna give it a few minutes before I start. I think we'll wait like 5-10 minutes just for people to trickle in. I think it's still 6:57, so I've got a few minutes. I'm gonna keep my video off, but I am here just so whoever's here already, you guys know that. All right. How's it going, guys? Good evening. I hope you're all tuned in. I'm gonna wait another couple of minutes just in case people are having trouble logging in and getting on. It's 7:01. Maybe we'll start at like 7:03 or 7:05. Oh, hi, Vivan. Thanks for coming to my stream. Vivan's here to refute anything I say about the startup. Vivan's my co-founder. He's here. He should be here talking to me, but he's here. I'll start in a couple of minutes. I'm just waiting maybe 1 or 2 minutes. I was going to start at 7, but I think just wait another minute. Hi, Rajat. Hi, Venkateshan. Good evening to you as well. Yeah, sorry for the delay, guys. Just give it another minute or so. Hi, Rajarshi. Rajarshi, is that right? Yeah, you can call me Vignesh. You don't need to use sir. Vignesh is fine. Another minute and then I can get started. Don't want to keep the people who are here waiting. All right, sweet. So I'll just get started. Ivan, what is this stream? This stream is about, I'll talk about it. I'll maybe give a quick intro as well, what the stream is about, what I'm about to do. So my name is Vignesh. I am working on building Crater, the platform that you guys are on. Hopefully everything's working on you guys' end and there are no bugs in the code because I am responsible for that, me along with the dev team itself. That's what we're doing. So wanted to quickly chat a little bit about Creator itself, and then also talk a little bit about some things that I've learned in my journey. Like I'll be honest, I'm not like some expert or something. I don't know a lot of stuff. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring things out. But there are a few things that I thought has worked for me, and I thought I'd share that. And that's what the stream's going to be about. It's going to be super informal. Feel free to interrupt me in the chat. Say whatever you ask, any questions that you have. I'll be happy to take them. So I don't have a presentation or anything. I just have a list of notes, some thoughts that I put down, and yeah, would love to just hear from you guys in chat as well. So let me just give a quick background about what we're building at Creator and why we're building this platform itself. So quickly before we get started, so when we started Creator, it was actually not Creator. We started off as a platform called Work Network. We were doing one-on-one networking. I don't know if a few of you have used Lunch Club, but it's very similar to that, where you'd meet a stranger one-on-one, network with them, and learn something. Okay, I think I need to speak up. Sorry, I will try to speak a little louder. Seems like my audio is a little low. Can you guys hear me? Is this better? Is this better? Can someone? Yes. Okay, cool. Great. Hi, Abhinav. Hi, Lalit, as well. I see that you've messaged. Okay, great. So yeah, coming back to where we started. So when we started, we were building a one-on-one networking platform called Work Network. And what we were doing was we were connecting people to new people that they wouldn't have met, where they had potential synergies. We were running this platform for 6 months. We had some good feedback, but one thing we learned was that people wanted to network faster. They wanted to meet people faster. It was like you meet somebody once a week, and that's not good enough for a lot of people, right? They wanted to. Okay, apparently my audio is bad. I'm trying to see what I can do. Could you check if that's at your end? Because I'm screaming right now. I don't think this is on my end. I think 2 people have mentioned it. Can you see? Some people are saying I can hear. Yeah, okay. I'm to continue on from where I left off, right? So basically, we were building this one-on-one networking platform, and what we realized was a lot of creators, particularly, wanted to connect with more people at a time. And we felt that the best way to do that would be to create a one-to-many platform. And that's really where the idea of Creator really started. So why live stream, right? Why not just a webinar like Zoom? I think a lot of people were doing webinars during the pandemic. So why live streaming? So here's the vision for Creator itself. Fundamentally, we think that anyone can be a streamer, anyone can be a creator. So it's just go back a little bit in history, right? If I don't know if you guys are familiar, but like way back in like the 1800s, before we had the school system that we have today, most of the learning happened by watching other people do things. Like if you think of like I think back in England or whatever, when there was a blacksmith doing something, they would have an apprentice who would watch what they're doing, and that's how they learned how to be a blacksmith in the first place. And fundamentally, I think Creator is very similar, very similar in that sense that we want to create a platform uh, where we want people to stream what they're doing and what work they're doing, and have people watch that. One of our devs, Abhishek, actually, that's kind of to a degree where we got this idea from as well. He has this habit of just sharing his screen and talking about what coding he does, and that really kind of summarized. Like I learned a lot watching his stream, and I realized that hey, listen, if I could watch other professionals stream as well, and I could watch what they're doing, I may be able to learn a lot. So fundamentally, I think Creator, our vision is to create a new way of sharing knowledge, and that's what we're looking to do on this platform as well. So I see there are some questions coming in. I don't know if I should take them at the end. I had a couple of notes that I wanted to share, and then maybe I can talk about what challenges they faced on fundraising as well. But yeah, fundamentally, the idea with Creator is that anyone should be a streamer. And honestly, some of you tuning into the stream, like whenever you decide to work, whenever you want to do something, doing something cool on your computer, you should definitely get on Creator and stream on the platform, because somebody might watch what you're doing and learn from that itself. And that's really the vision we have for Creator. Not just that the big YouTubers today should be streaming, but anyone and everyone should be streaming, right? And I think that's the kind of platform we want to build. So yeah, that's a quick introduction of Creator as well. What I'll do is obviously you guys are free to explore the platform, check out what else is going on. I don't want to dive too much into it, so I want to share like 4 or 5 things that I've experienced and I've learned, and then maybe and not just about entrepreneurship. I think these lessons are something that I've taken away from life as well, and then I'll address some of these questions as well. So one thing that I learned, I think, is that there really isn't a formula for success. I think this was like something it took us some time, but like I think we figured that everyone has their own journey and everyone has like their own way of achieving the result they want to. So I mean, let's just take a classic startup advice, right? Like one thing that everyone hears around is called do things that don't scale. It's a very classic startup advice. I think Paul Graham mentioned it. But even for an advice like that, which seemingly seems like it's applicable to everyone, you're going to find counter examples. Like for example, when Spotify started, Spotify wasn't doing things that didn't scale. What they did was they reached out to like big music artists, and they said, listen, we're going to help you make money. And they did that for 2.5 years, signed on a whole bunch of artists, and then they just launched, boom, and got a whole bunch of users. Like their idea was to just build for scale right from day one. So like whatever startup advice you find out there, whatever advice even I'm giving you today, to be honest, may not be applicable to you. Like every story, every advice that you might hear will have a counter example for sure. Having said that, that's not to say that don't take any advice at all. That's not to say that don't listen to anyone at all. But keep in mind that like everyone is different and they all have their own journey and their own strengths. Like even within our team, when I talk about Vivan and I, like Vivan has this habit of like, I think Vivan is always on. He's always thinking about Creator. He's always thinking about startups. He's thinking about the ecosystem, reading up, and that's just his thing. And for me, it's like I try to do like different things as well, and that kind of keeps me on my toes and helps me get creative ideas. Like I work with a non-profit. I try to read on philosophy, for example, and it's just what works for both of us. So no matter what I tell you on this stream, obviously take away things that make sense to you, but definitely like try to find your own path to success as well. And that's really the big takeaway that I want you to take from this stream. All of you, I'm sure, can find your journey to be successful, and that's really the big takeaway here. I will share a few things that I've learned, and maybe that works for you, just in your interest. I also do want to share a Twitter thread that I came across where I was talking about like every startup advice that you find will have a counter example, and this Twitter thread kind of sums up a lot of these examples. It was pretty insightful for me, so I'm just putting that in the chat as well. So so yeah, now starting off with the advice that's worked for me, may or may not work for you, but I had 3 or 4 things that I've been learning over the last couple of years. One thing I have learned is that to be humble, but also to be compassionate to yourself. I'm not sure this is true of every startup founder, but when Vivan and I look back on what we did 6 months ago or 1 year ago or even 3 months ago, we always think of like, oh my God, this was really stupid. What were we thinking? And I think that's true of a lot of people as well. And I'm sure like 3 months down the line, we look back today and say like, what were we thinking? Why did we do this? And I think that's a sign of growth. And that's something that I think is very healthy, because now I know that I'm experimenting and I'm learning really fast. I'm growing really fast. So obviously, like, it's important to be humble and know that, look, you don't know everything, and in the future you're gonna likely find that you made a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. And I think you need to not beat yourself up over it. Be compassionate to yourself, but at the same time know that you are possibly making a lot of mistakes as well. Um, Let me give you an example, right? I will share a quick story. I think it's pretty funny. And Vivan, I think you're here, so you'll also enjoy this. So basically, one thing we did when we started off working on Work Network itself about a year and a half year ago, I think, and we had this big dev roadmap. Like, we scoped out tasks for like an entire year. We were just like, okay, this is what we're going to build out. We're going to build this out for a full year. I think we had about 150 tasks on that, and we'd like scoped it out, saying we're going to do this at this point in time for an entire year. And we thought, like, hey, these are the features that we think we should build, and we should just keep building these out slowly and keep rolling them out. That's the way we thought about the product. Not to say that this was wrong, but like, today when I look back at that dev roadmap, it's like laughable. Like, we aren't even building the same product anymore, and we had this all these features scoped out on that product itself. And I think when I look back at that, I'm like, we find that really amusing. Like, why did we even think that this was the way to go about it, right? And but it's like, this is a mistake that everyone will make. You're going to make those mistakes for sure, and that's okay, right? We're compassionate about it. We learned from that, and today we're not making the same mistakes again. Like, uh, and I think one thing we learned to how to prevent that is to do something called a pre-mortem. And not to say that you're going to prevent everything, but this is something that's been a useful exercise. We did it once or twice, and it was pretty helpful in that you put yourself as 6 months in the future and say, what mistake do I think I made? Like, try to see yourself in the future of where you are and think of like, what are the mistakes that you might have made. So rather than doing like a post-mortem of what happened, do a pre-mortem assuming you're in the future. So this is something that might help out. And honestly, when I talk about this now, I think one thing that does come to mind on like what we might be failing in is, both Vivan and I are pretty we live under a rock. We're really not under social media that much. We don't put ourselves out there, and maybe that's a mistake that we're making now that I reflect on it. And I think this stream and talking to you guys is maybe my effort to kind of counter that and put myself out there. So definitely, like, do that exercise for yourself and think of where you want to be in the future, like, and see what might have gone wrong for you to get there. So that's an exercise. I don't know if that made sense, but hopefully that did. But yeah, fundamentally, like, be humble, know that you're probably making a lot of mistakes, but also like, don't beat yourself up over it. I think I used to get really frustrated at myself, saying, why can't I do more? But I've kind of got to this point. Yeah, like Vivan said, meditating. Yeah, I've kind of got to this point where I'm like, hey, you know what? It's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. So the third thing I wanted to talk about, and I think this is pretty important, is that um, be prepared to do the worst tasks, right? Like, everyone only sees the fun parts of being a founder. It's awesome. You're building your own company. You're having this glamorous journey. You're going to like raise Series A, Series B. You're going to IPO and make a hell of a lot of money. And obviously that's true. There is a very glamorous aspect about it. It's a lot of fun. I learn a lot, and the destination is very glamorous. But just keep in mind, there's the whole bunch of nonsense work that you need to do, right? For the longest time, I mean, even today, like, things that kind of tasks that you really have to do are like, okay, you kind of have to do customer support sometimes. There's nobody else to do it. It's your job to pick up those customer support tickets and answer those questions. There's also like due diligence that I know Vivan has spent hours on, just filing documents after documents to send to investors so that they can approve us and give us the funds. Like, this is one of the challenges about fundraising, right? We raised funds and then you just have to send document after document, and it's just a tedious process. You're doing that for like 6 hours a day, just writing down rubbish documents. So there are a lot of tedious tasks. That's not to say that it's not fun, and there's a lot of like great things that comes with a startup. But when you're building your own company, the buck does stop with you, and you have to be willing to do a lot of shit work. And there's no other way to put it. I think it is very tedious, very mundane tasks. And think about it this way, right? For the people who work for you, it's like a job for them, and you want to give them things that also they're excited about. But for them, it's a job, right? They have to be excited for it. You want to retain them, want them to be happy. But for you, it's like the buck stops with you. You have to finish all the shit work as well. So it's like, you can't just keep doling out shit work to people and expect them to be in your company. So you have to be willing to do a lot of rubbish. And again, like, shout out to Vivan. He does pick up a lot of this stuff. So really appreciate that. That's lesson number 3. So I want to also talk So moving on, I've got total of 6. I'll maybe type them up and put them in the chat as well. So lesson number 4, something that has worked really well for me, has been reflecting constantly. And this might not necessarily be true for entrepreneurs itself, it might just be true for anyone. So oftentimes we hear in the startup ecosystem, right? Like get a feedback loop, like get a feedback loop from the user where you get instantaneous feedback on like any action that happens. And something that I've kind of, the way I think about it, you want to apply that to your life as well, right? You want to apply feedback to yourself as well on how you can improve yourself, right? And there are multiple ways to go about it. One is you can go talk to you can talk to your like boss or like your coworkers or your friends and say like, listen, I want some feedback. Can you help me get better at certain things? And obviously that's valuable, but that's still not instantaneous. Like that still doesn't cut it in terms of how fast you can get feedback. There's one fastest way to get feedback, and that's like getting feedback from yourself. So I think that's been really crucial for me. Particularly, I've learned a lot about myself, learned about where I can improve and where I can grow, and just reflecting and evaluating myself. Like, where am I? Where do I want to be? How am I feeling? Has been really valuable. And when I mean reflection, don't just necessarily reflect on like thoughts and what happened, but also think of like how things made you feel. Because like fundamentally, I think how you feel does tell you a lot about your response to a certain situation. All right, let me just take a quick example to maybe clarify how it felt. So a few months ago was feeling like super underconfident, maybe a little overworked as well. And someone on the team was reviewing my code and they pointed out saying, hey, this is a few issues, like this is a bit of a bug, you need to clean up this design and that. And honestly, like we have a very healthy culture of giving feedback on our team. Like we always do a code review process. We think we talk through pretty much everything, but on that day I got very defensive and I don't think I took it really well. And it was only after I reflected that I realized that how I felt caused me to feel that way. Like I was not able to take it well because I was already underconfident about my ability, or I was feeling a bit insecure, and I was also feeling a little overworked. And I think that recognizing that, I was able to communicate to my colleagues saying, look, this is how I felt. That was maybe not the best time to discuss feedback. I'm sorry about that. And the issue didn't get out of hand. And I think that's what I mean when I say like, check into your feelings, understand where you are, like know where you're coming from, so that you can also be aware of what kind of response you're giving and what kind of signals you're communicating. So definitely check into yourself, get that feedback, get that understanding of where you are. So I'm going to talk, okay. And then the next one, I think this is a bit controversial. Maybe not everyone would agree, but one thing that I find pretty valuable is be comfortable with being bored. Like in today's world, like we're always just doing something or the other. Like you're either like, okay, I got off my laptop, I'm on my way home, I'm going to listen to some Spotify. Maybe I'm like, I'm taking a shower, I'm going to put on some music. And yeah, someone said nope on the reaction. 100%. I think it may not be for everyone. I already said that on day one. Like it's definitely not for everyone. But fundamentally, I feel personally that there's no space for our minds to really think of something new. We're always like overloading it with information. Like there's always stuff going on in terms of like how much information we get. Okay, sorry. I think somebody said I'm going very fast. I need to go slow. Sorry. I will recap at the end. I just saw the chat message. Sorry about that. But fundamentally, I think if you're constantly overloading your mind with information, where is the scope for you to be creative? I find that a lot of my best ideas come from when I'm in the shower, for example, and I don't put on any music or I don't do anything else, when I'm doing nothing else. Sometimes, like when I used to take the metro, and the metro would go underground, I actually found that was a time where I really was super bored, because it would be like 15 minutes, no network on my phone, but also a time where I could really think of things, think of something new, think of something random as well. And oftentimes it wasn't effective, but sometimes you get a lot of good ideas, especially for those of you who are not doing a startup, or you're not like doing, you don't have an idea yet. I fundamentally think one of the best ways to think about is to be comfortable with being bored. Give yourself that space to think. And it's really hard in today's world. And I'm not saying you have to meditate or do anything, but just be okay with being bored. Sometimes you just be bored and your mind will take you places and you'll get some cool ideas. I mean, think of it this way, right? We're all obsessed with like hyper efficiency. And another example of a big company that does this, I'm sure you guys have heard of Costco, low cost, like wholesale dealer in the US. So one thing they do is they actually deliberately have in each of their stores. This is one of the stores that is trying to optimize for costs. They're trying to make things low cost, right? But even for them, what they do is they actually have 4 or 5 more employees than they need in the store. And the way they think about it is, we need to have some people extra and build like some inefficiency in our system so that people can be creative, so that people are always available to take on new projects. If you don't have that boredom built in, you're not going to have the headspace or even the time to think of something new or take up something. Again, this is not for everyone. I'm not saying this is the best, like this may not work for you, but it's something that it's definitely worth trying. We just don't have the bandwidth right now to really be bored at all, and I think that's something that's quite important. So yeah, that's like lesson number 5. And finally, one thing that I mean, this is very generic and cliche. I don't think, I mean, not that all these other things are like super new or radical, but this is definitely the most generic and cliche that I had to share. But I think it's pretty important. I think have fun and do what makes you happy. I think being a founder and being like in this space, like if you aren't happy doing it, you really shouldn't be doing it. Like it's not for everyone, and obviously, like I said, there is be prepared to do the worst task. It's not glamorous, but more than anything, if like doesn't give you happiness, then don't do it. Like I know society has this idea of like success and failure, being an entrepreneur, doing something exciting, like, oh, you're really cool startup founder, but like don't do it if it doesn't make you happy, right? Why are you doing that? Do like just do your thing and enjoy the journey. I think that's like would be the sixth thing that I wanted to talk about. So I just realized that I saw the message on going very fast. So I'll quickly recap on what I did say, and then maybe I'll take some questions as well. So the first thing was, there's no formula for success. There's no silver bullet. I think everyone has their process and journey. I shared a Twitter thread on exceptions of like every single startup rule out there. Check out the thread. It's really cool. I really enjoyed it. The second thing is be humble and also be compassionate to yourself. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, but that's totally okay. Don't beat yourself over it. I mean, obviously, you don't want to make the same mistakes again. So be compassionate to yourself. The third one is be prepared to do the worst tasks. There is always like shit work. There's always things that need to be done. And as a founder, you kind of have to do them. There's no escaping it. And so be prepared to do those. Like don't expect that everything is going to be rosy and like amazing. There is going to be a lot of rubbish that you have to do. um, Reflect constantly. It's the fastest feedback loop for yourself on how you can improve. And I mean, check in with your feelings to understand where you are and where you're coming from, and that'll help you communicate and work with your team as well. Lesson 5 was to be comfortable with being bored. I know this was a controversial one. Some people said no, no, no. But yeah, be comfortable with being bored. That's something that I would say is lesson 5. And lesson 6 is obviously have fun and do what makes you happy. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly take some questions. I think there's questions about fundraising, what challenges you faced. I think Vivan is a better person to answer that. But I would say like one thing with respect to fundraising is that um, I think it's hard to know like few things, right? One is I think getting the initial connect to a fund is pretty hard, especially as a new founder, someone who's at the start. It can be quite difficult getting that first meeting, and especially when you have like so few of them. Obviously, you have to nail that meeting. So there's a lot of pressure in that one meeting. And second, I would say like in terms of valuation and like how much to value yourself, when to say no, yes is quite tricky. Like quite honestly, I don't even know if we did the right thing on this. I have no clue. We don't know yet, right? Until maybe we really make it big. But fundamentally, like that is something that's challenging. Like when we talk to investors, there would be like big numbers, and all these numbers like we're looking like, whoa, this is crazy, kind of, right? And that was really challenging. I think Vivan is a better person in terms of how to talk about how to what are the challenges he faced on fundraising as well, since he did a lot of that legwork. So yeah, definitely reach out to Vivan on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to answer that. Uh, Abhishek asked, how do you go about team building? Abhishek is, I think, our senior dev. I hope it's the same Abhishek. But yeah, how do you go about team building? That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I know I said there's no like I did say right at the start, there's no silver bullet, there's no formula for success. But one thing I think that's really fundamental about team building is I think having an open communication. Again, I think I'm going to give you a very generic answer. Unfortunately, I can't help you beyond this, but I think it's about having an open communication and a level of trust. I think that's been really crucial for our teams. Like we have this framework that I read called Radical Candor, which I think is really valuable. And basically what that means is you're trying to be you're not just trying to be fake and artificial. You're trying to be so there's that element of candor that you have to kind of put yourself be honest about what you're communicating and make sure that you're not hiding things, but at the same time, like, you're not hurtful as well. I mean, check out the book. I think it's a much better way to explain what I'm talking about. Or maybe just a quick article as well. um, that would be a good read in terms of how do you go about team building. I don't think I answered that question well, sorry, Abhishek. Should you raise money and how to pitch to investors? I think that's a very personal question on how you should, whether you should raise money or not. I think people have a lot of different factors on whether they should raise money or not. Like, it would be like unfair for me to tell you to bootstrap your company when you need the funds to like survive yourself, right? Maybe you need to find a home, like you may have pressure from your family to like make money. You never know. So this is a personal question, but fundamentally, I do think that when you go to an investor, one thing to keep in mind is that that does come with a certain pressure. Like, the moment you talk to an investor, there are going to be expectations set. They are going to expect a few things, and you kind of have to conform to that. You kind of get into this startup loop of like growth, like hitting the numbers, and you may not necessarily have all the freedom to experiment. Of course, if you have a very good angel investor like we did at the start, we're able to pivot and experiment. Like, it's amazing, but that may not necessarily be the case. So keep in mind that before you raise money or whether you uh, go into that. How to pitch to investors, I think I'll let Vivan do another session on this. But again, there's no silver bullet to the success on this as well. Like, I don't think there's a single how do I pitch to investors textbook answer that I could give you, right? Like, obviously, like, don't pitch to investors unless you're really confident in what you're building and you really believe in it. I would say practice a bunch. It's something I don't think we did enough, but do a whole bunch of mock exercises as well, and do a bunch of practice with your team members. Do it with the team, do it with your family, and see how it goes, and get comfortable with saying the same thing and see how it sounds, for sure. Next question: should everyone do a startup? Honestly, I don't know. I think it's for each person. It's an individual decision. I think, yeah, I don't think it is for everyone. I think it's but that's not to say that like, I think everyone can do a startup. I don't know if should everyone do a startup. That's a personal choice that people should take for themselves. But I think everyone should. I think there's certain things about a startup that everyone should do. Like, I think you should aim to like constantly learn and grow. And I think that's one thing that happens a lot in startups. And I think that's something, whether you're working on a startup or not, you should strive for. Like, I think you should aim to keep learning and growing. I think that's something I fundamentally believe. And I think whether you do a startup or not, you yourself in some sense are a startup and a project, right? So you owe that to yourself to keep learning and growing. Okay. In terms of um, tech, how do you guys think about product roadmap and validating the product? Okay. I'm gonna take, okay, yeah, okay, 7:30. Yeah, I'm gonna take like few of these questions and then call it. Okay. In terms of tech, how do you guys think about product roadmap and validating the product? Like, okay, and this is a great question. I think we made a lot of mistakes on this. And again, I'm gonna put an asterisk on everything before and say, like, this is how we do it and this works for us. It may not work for you, so keep that in mind. But one thing we have been trying to do off late, and at least right now it looks like it's going well, is that we're really trying to identify, look at the data, look at numbers that come into our platform. For example, let's say I look at how many users are coming into Creator today and how many of them are staying 1 week later. And then I say, okay, hey, this is a number that we think we're comfortable with. We look at some industry standards and we say, look, this number is a little too low. What can we do about fixing this? So largely what we do is that we look at those metrics and look at those numbers that we care about and say, look, this is a number that we're not comfortable with. This is a number that we are comfortable with. And then look at what are the things that we can build towards that. Again, this might end up giving you a little bit of a short-term outlook. So it's obviously really important to understand like where the space is headed, what you need to do in the future as well. And this is where you probably want to talk to like other leaders in the space, talk to your investors, talk to people and see where things are headed. So it's a combination of looking at the data and also like trusting your intuition to a degree and say, look, we want to try this experiment. It's not something that maybe hits some metrics right now, but it's something we want to pilot and try. It's a trade-off. Like, it's really hard to like give you like exactly product roadmap, but that's just the way we've been thinking about it for sure. Okay. Do you think college is a good time to start up? Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why it's not. Like, you can start at any time. I don't see, like, you could start when you're 60. Like, we saw the Nika founder, she started when she was 50, I think. And she made like, I think she's a billionaire now. So there's no good time or a bad time to start up founder. And then you have the Zepto people who are 19 and they've raised a lot of money and they're doing really well for themselves. So there's no good and bad time. I think you can there's always a good time to start a company if you have a great idea, right? Don't just start one for the sake of starting one. I would say, like, be passionate about something. If you care about a problem, definitely go ahead and try and solve it. There's no time that you shouldn't do that. Okay. Biggest mistakes you made and what you got right and lessons. I think I kind of shared some. One I did mention, we kind of built out like a super long product roadmap, and we thought we were doing that right. What did we get right? I think we did really well in terms of our hiring and figuring out our team. I think that's something we did do well. I think we have a fantastic team. I hope these guys are watching. So yeah, I think we did a really good job in terms of hiring. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out like what we did right. I'm still trying to understand that. Like, to be honest, I wish I could tell you like what were the things we did to get the team that we did. But I'm not 100% sure. Like, maybe when I distill and like really dig deep and try to understand what are those variables that really led to that, maybe I'll write a post about it. But right now I don't know how it happened, but that's definitely something we did right. Something is right about our culture, our team, that we have something nice going on. What is the biggest mistakes we made? I think I did mention one of the mistakes that we tried to. I think initially we were building a little too much, not being in data driven enough. So that's one thing. One second. I need a moment. I need to drink some water. I've been talking a lot. Thanks for the fire emoji and must. Thank you. Um, what's your view on the create economy? I think I briefly mentioned it. I think like obviously it's an exciting space. I think when you think about it today, like everyone is like everyone is looking for content to consume. Like every app out there is like vying for eyeballs and vying for time of a user, and the best way to do that is obviously like having content creators or like community to kind of that has content for you to consume. I think, and obviously creators are the best way to do that. So in some sense, I think every platform is has to focus towards its creators or the people who are putting out the content. In terms of creator economy, I think one thing I do feel is that like going forward, I do feel like we're going to see more and more creators, and that's kind of our vision with creator as well. I think people who are creators today are obviously like huge and they're doing really well, but I think we're going to see a whole new generation of creators, and I think that's kind of why we're building out creator as well. We want to create that next generation of creators itself, of like people who are doing um, people who are like like not currently streaming right now, but like will stream in the future, will become content creators in the future. And that could be anyone. I think all of you on the chat, like you guys have asked some great questions. Like you guys should be content creators as well. There's no reason why you can't be today. So definitely, like, I mean, give it a shot, right? Put yourself out there. How do you know? Like, I didn't think I was going to do this, and then I got signed up for it, and here I am talking about it. So there's no reason why you can't. And honestly, just do what you're doing. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, share your screen, just work on what you're working on. Okay, that's my view. I don't think I really answered the question in terms of the economics of it, but that's just fundamentally the view that I think makes sense, or where I think I have some clarity on. Okay, you think having a mentor or advisor is important? Yeah, I mean, sure. I think it helps, right? Like we do have an advisor with Creator as well. His name is Sandeep, and he's been really good in the sense that he's been a voice of reason for us. I think there are times when you get stressed out and you have like a lot going on, and sometimes it just helps you to put things in perspective. Not so much of the advice or the mentorship necessarily that you get, but kind of in terms of just talking to someone about it and seeing. I think just the idea of talking to someone and like putting your thoughts out there and like saying it logically is has been very helpful. I think having somebody who asks the right questions has been very helpful. Having said that, yeah, I mean, like, but it doesn't have to be someone senior or something, right? Like, I don't think it necessarily has to be somebody who's like someone who's like done something amazing in space. Obviously, that helps. Like, they have some good advice, they have some ideas, but anyone can be a mentor or advisor. I don't see why they can't, as long as they ask you the right questions and help you, like, because I think all the answers are going to come from within you. Like, you have the answers to the questions. You have the most information about your problems than anyone else, and you can communicate it to them. But at the end of the day, you need to make that call. And I think it's important to find somebody who can ask you the right questions. I mean, if you guys do have any questions or want to talk about it in more detail, I'd be happy to. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk about it. Okay. How do you validate your idea? Um okay, this is a good question. I think, okay, I mean, the classic answer to this would be like, hey, listen, build out a prototype. You don't even have to build out something super fancy, right? Put a landing page out there. Let's just say I'm just going to hypothetically assume you're in college, you have an idea, you want to check if it works. Build out a landing page. Go to like Wix or go to Webflow. Build out a landing page. Put a form in there. Say like, sign up for this service. Whatever idea you have, and put it out there, and check what people think. Like, maybe a bunch of people sign up. Talk to them about why they want the solution. And if you can figure out something with no code or no tech and just manually process that, I think that's a really fast way to validate things. And I think maybe fundamentally at Creator as well, one thing we did do at the start, one mistake we made at the start was trying to build out too much without validating. And I know someone asked about mistakes, so this does make sense, I guess, in that context. But definitely, I think that's really something that you should consider doing. Like, if you have an idea, it's very easy today to build a no code solution out there and test it out. I think it's not difficult. Like, you can figure it out, watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you'll find out how to create a Webflow type form, and you can make it work. So test it out, just ask a bunch of friends. Like, think about it this way, right? If you can't pitch the idea to your friends, you can't convince your friends and family to use this service, then maybe you need to think through more on how you can implement this idea itself. So definitely, like, that's the fastest way to validate. Obviously, like, if your idea is like a SaaS product, then maybe you can't talk to your friends and family. I really don't have access to that, to be honest. Like, I wish I did. I wish I could help you. um, what do you think is one thing that you would want college students to do that you weren't able to do? uh, Honestly, I think I had a really wholesome college experience. I really had a lot of fun in college. And I think maybe like one thing I do think people forget to do is have fun. I think enjoy college as well. Like, you're not going to get that time back. But one thing I did do, and I think maybe I will share, is like, make a ton of friends. I think you'd be surprised. Like, your college friends are like a huge asset to you. You tend to like they're always there for you. Like, people you spend time with studying, like, I think most people would agree with this. Those of you who finished college, like, they're always more or less your friends for life. So make a whole bunch of friends. Like, I think that's something that I was able to do, but I'd also wish I'd made more friends, right? Like, make a lot of friends. Like, you never know, not just for startup reasons, but just in life, but even from a startup and business standpoint, right? Like, you want to hire somebody, like, who can you trust more than like that college friend you roomed with? You know how messy they are, like, you know their darkest secrets. Obviously, you want to work with them. Like, you know everything about them, you know what they're like to deal with. So if you're looking for a co-founder, those are the best places to find it, right? How do you handle conflicts? How do you handle conflicts in a team? I mean, I think each conflict is different. Like, it's very hard to like give you like a cookie cutter answer saying this is how you handle conflicts. But fundamentally, um, let me think about this. I want to see if I can give you a reasonable answer without giving you a cop out. Um, hmm, I think there are two types of conflicts. I think there's one where I think there is like a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, and those are the easy kind of conflicts, right? You kind of just have to put both of them in the room and be like, listen, this is what you thought they said, this is what they said, this is what's happening. Clear miscommunication, you guys can sort it out. Like, just put them in the same room, have them have a conversation, and those are easy to solve. I think those are the kind of conflicts that are like very straightforward. Like, and I think knowing that this is that type of conflict really helps. The second one is probably something more underlying, where people are not able to work together, or maybe there's some tension between them. And I think those are really hard. I think you really have to sit down with the people itself. I'm not an expert on handling conflicts. I wish I had like a good answer for you, but I think identifying the types of conflict would really help. Like, understanding where the conflict is stemming from would really be valuable. Like, I think if you know that this is just a pure case of misunderstanding, that those conflicts, knowing those conflicts, which I think most a good percentage of conflicts are those, putting them in the same room, talking about it, like sharing how the other person felt. Like, okay, I felt this way, you felt this way, maybe I shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't have said that, and those are sorted out. Some conflicts go a little deeper than that, and I think those are much harder to solve. And I don't think there's a single answer. I would even say, like, talk to an expert on it, right? Maybe giving an external third party person to kind of mediate those things for you. Like, there are people whose jobs this is, and maybe they can help you. What's my Instagram handle? I don't use Instagram. I think I have an Instagram, though it must be like I don't use it though. So maybe just hit me up on LinkedIn. I think that's fine. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. You can just email me as well, Vignesh@creator.club. So you can, I've dropped my link. I dropped my email here as well. So yeah, you can shoot me a email. Email, I'll probably reply the fastest. LinkedIn, maybe I probably will reply as well. So both of those are fine. You can email me or message me on LinkedIn. Okay, do you think a company should work on branding and stuff or just product in early days? Again, like I'm gonna go back to my cop out answer of saying, look, I really don't know. Like that's very dependent on what your product and what your company is. Like some products itself, for example, like let's take an example of something like, let's say, okay, for a lack of a better example, let's say something like Emirates Airlines, right? When they launched the airlines, I think their product was like, okay, at the end of the day, it's an airlines, but a lot of their product was the brand itself. Like they were trying to build like a lifestyle around Emirates, and I think Kingfisher in India too. They were trying to build a lifestyle around that, in which case, like the branding and stuff becomes really important. Like let's say you're launching a luxury jewelry business, right? I mean, that's like a point where you really want to care about branding because like you are trying to come across that exclusive and elite luxury jewelry brand. It probably makes sense to focus on branding. Or even if like on the other end of the spectrum, you're trying to come across a very like very accessible and low cost thing. Maybe you want to brand yourself in a certain way. And I think there are certain cases where the branding becomes really crucial. And I think there are certain companies where that does make sense, at least just off the top of my head. I'll be honest, we've built like one company. I'm not like some superstar expert. I wish I was, but I really am not. But I think there are lots of cases where branding makes a lot of sense. But I think at least the way I see it, uh, like you want to, obviously your product has to be functional and do what it claims to do. Like there's no point of putting all this branding if your product doesn't do what it claims to do. So make sure like you have that on the at the get go, right? Like your product needs to, you're claiming something in your brand, at least your product kind of sort of does that. Like it solves the problem meaningfully. So I think that's for sure, right? You can't go in like if you're selling luxury jewelry, like if there's no jewelry and there's no like, then there's no point, right? You need to have some product in place itself to at least make it work. Even if you're just, it's you doing something manually in the background, like the product kind of needs to be in place before you think of branding and those kind of things. I don't know, to be honest. I don't work with the marketing side, so I do have a bias towards building product. But I will say one thing, like just building an amazing product and expecting people to come doesn't work. I know that for a fact. With like I think there is a lot more that goes into it for sure. So yeah, I think I answered all the questions. Are there more? Like, okay, great. I think that's about it. Super. I can wait a moment in case anyone has any questions or anything that they want to ask. Cool. Thanks for the fire emoji. Super. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think I've been streaming for like 45 minutes now. Super. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. And yeah, if you have something else that you want to ask about or something comes up or you just want to talk, you can hit me up on LinkedIn or drop me an email. I'd be happy to get back to you. And sorry for whoever said I was going really fast. I hope I did cover everything. There will be a video recording made available, so if you missed something, you can definitely watch it. Oh, and okay, there's one more question. Okay. Oh my God, there's a lot of questions. Great. I will try to answer these as well. In terms of tech, what skills you think are worth learning nowadays? Okay, I have an unconventional view on this, but and maybe like someone from my dev team would like maybe correct me. You can guys, I'm sure you guys on the chat also just correct me if you do feel like I'm wrong. But I think fundamentally, like the way I think about it is like you can learn the skill when you need it, right? Like obviously it helps to know like the basics of basics of how tech works, like especially if you're trying to be a technical co-founder, like understand it doesn't matter what technology you're using. Like if you understand how to build a website or understand how to build a mobile app in whatever language, whatever tech, whatever you're doing, it's obviously worth knowing. But I think fundamentally, like the technology you need to you will figure out what technology to use when you need it. And I think that's the way I think about it. Like it doesn't matter what tech skills you do, especially to prototype at the early stage. Just do what you're comfortable in, like learn something, just find whatever has the best tutorial available and do it. And then you'll find some later on when you really need to scale the product, like you'll hire some developers who can help you fix it up. I think Abhishek shout out and Nishan shout out to you guys for like cleaning up a lot of rubbish code. So but definitely like how do you go about learning the skills? Any tips? I mean, the best way to do it is to do things. I think like a lot of people end up being stuck on this reading loop and being on like YouTube or like just watching too much. Like especially with coding, I think you're not going to learn much until you get your hands dirty. Like build something, like find a product. Okay, maybe you want to make a copy of some website that exists, right? Like go look at say like this chat box that you have here or the reactions that you have here. Just go make it. See if you can figure out how to make it. and that'll help you figure it out. And like you'll keep asking questions along the way of like, how do I get started, how do I build this, and you'll keep learning. And I think that's the way to go. Like, I know this is really hard thing to say, because I before I started learning, that's what people told me, and I always found that really, I wasn't convinced by it. I said, like, people are not willing to help me. Why are they just telling me to go do this? But honestly, there's no other way. I really wish there was, but there isn't. Like, I always used to think the people who are telling me this are like, wow, they're so mean. Why can't they just sit down and help me, right? But people aren't going to do that. Like, why would they, right? The resources are available to you. Like, if you have the interest, just pick up and you don't have to make something new. Even like, you don't even have to do anything. Just go find a random, let's say you want to learn HTML, CSS. You want to learn how to build a static landing page. You want to learn how HTML works. Pick up a website that you like and try to make it. And then you'll realize that, oh, hey, now I need to put a color. Okay, how do I put colors? Okay, CSS, this is how I put colors. And you'll kind of learn on the go. Like, that's the best way to go about it. Like, pick a project, figure out what you want, and go with that. Thanks, Adarsh. She said, great session. Rajarshi asks, how to maintain regular customers. Uh, that's a good question, Rajarshi, and honestly, something we are searching for answers to as well on Creator. Like, think about it this way, right? Like, just give you a quick example, right? Let's say, Rajashi, you are tuning into Creator, and we want to make sure that you come back to Creator tomorrow, right? So some things that we've started to do is like, next time you RSVP for a session, you'll see that we want you to follow certain creators, so we can let you know that the creators are going live. There's a subscribe button below my video itself that you can click on, that'll send you a notification when I go live next. So like, in this way, now I can notify Rajashri that, hey, listen, this is a stream that's going on, you should come back, especially if you like this. So I think fundamentally, like, triggers are pretty important. I think this is something we read as well, that you kind of need to remind users that you exist. I think people tend to forget, like, especially with so many apps vying for attention, like, a lot of people forget that you exist. I'm not saying spam people, but kind of remind them that, hey, we exist, you like the stream, this happened to you, and you subscribe to this person, you really enjoyed this stream. Why not tune into the next stream, right? So I think, and yeah, speaking of which, subscribe to me, I guess. Like, go ahead. When I stream again, you'll get notified, and then we'll maintain a regular customer, hopefully. So definitely, like, there's a really good book called Hooked. It talks a little bit about this, about customer retention. Definitely check it out. It's pretty classic. A lot of startup people uh, read it. Okay. Do share the pointers, please. I'm not sure I understood that question, Kenneth. Maybe were you trying to refer to somebody else's question as well, or do you have a question? I can wait for a few minutes if you want to ask. Or is this still about how to retain customers? And honestly, if you guys have more specific questions, and there are people on the stream who really want to ask like something very specific about their particular idea or something that they're working on, like, I'm happy to like brainstorm with you guys and talk to you about like how to go about it. I mean, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn, I'll reply, and like maybe I can like talk to you a little bit about what you are specifically doing as well. And if any of you are interested in learning more about Creator, or like understanding how our team works or things like that, definitely reach out to me. Like, I'd be happy to talk about it. Which book? It's called Hooked. I think it's by Mir Ayal. I think, if that's right. Maybe you might have to Google it. I think that's the right author in the book. It's a good book. I think it talks a lot about how like how you can, a little bit about how, what you mentioned, right? How do you retain users? Like, they have this model called a hook model, and how to like build products that are like habits. Like today, for example, like everyone has a habit, right? You wake up in the morning, you check out one app. Most of you probably Insta, Facebook. I don't know what it is. For me, I check out Reddit very often, and it's like I've got hooked to Reddit. So I'm trying to get out of it, but I do check it pretty often. So I think it's a little bit about that, about building habit forming. Oh, thanks, Kenneth, for clarifying. Yeah, and thanks, Team Creator, for dropping my LinkedIn and my email as well. Yeah, do subscribe. I will stream again. I'm gonna make an effort to put myself more out there. So hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope it was useful. Um, Thanks a lot, guys. I am gonna drop off, or maybe I'll wait a second. Some people did have questions that came in late. Thanks, Kenneth. I really appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes and then I'm gonna head out. All right, sweet. I see a lot of reactions. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good one. Have a good evening. And yeah, feel free to reach out anytime.